I made a simple Ankara jumpsuit like this for a kid, and I just thought to take you guys through the process of making this jumpsuit. Here is the Ankara fabric that I used for this jumpsuit, and the first thing I did was to cut out the half cut. So for the half cut, I considered a bust, and then I added 10 inches allowance. I folded that into four. I marked out the half length and I added 1.5 inch allowance to the half length. The 10 inches allowance added to the bust includes allowance for the zip and also for the sewing. And to successfully cut and sew a jumpsuit like this for a child, here are the basic measurements that I need to measure on the child. So after bringing out this quantity of fabric from the rest of my fabric, I divided her shoulder by 2. I marked that. I added half-inch allowance. Then her armhole divided by 2. I marked that. I added half-inch allowance. Then a bust divided by 4, I marked that, plus 1.5 inch sewing allowance. A waistline divided by 4 plus 1.5 inch sewing allowance. Then for the neck, I used neck width of 6 on fold of 2, I marked 3, and neck depth of 3 at the front, 5 at the back. The front is a round neck while the back is kind of a U neck or a V neck. Next after this was to cut the trouser parts of the jumpsuit. So I measured a hip and then I added 20 inches allowance. This 20 inches includes allowance for sewing, for zip, for extending the crouch and all of that. I folded that into four, leaving 2 inches allowance at the back because when you are cutting trouser or jumpsuit, the back has to be wider than the front. Then I figured out the length. The length I have here is actually shorter than my desired length with just 1 inch. And whenever you are cutting a trouser or a jumpsuit, I would always advise that you had 3 inches allowance to the length. So that is why I will be cutting 4 inches later and joining it to the length of this jumpsuit. Next after this is to measure 2 inches inward just the way I'm measuring. And the reason I'm measuring this way is because I want this jumpsuit to be as free as possible from the waistline downward. In fact, it's going to have one big pleat. So you measure the crouch, you consider the back crouch and measure it. Later, you're going to trim out the front crouch. After measuring the crouch, you draw your crouch line just like I do, and then you are going to trim out two. This is like four pieces now. You trim out the first two, that means that is the front. And the next after this is just to give it that butt kind of shape at the back, and you're going to measure whatever the front crouch is, you measure it. In my case, the back crouch is just 1.5 inch longer than the front crouch, so I measured 1.5 inch downward and then I trimmed it out. I'm going to pin the first two pieces together, that's the front panel. I'll be pinning the back two together so that when I get to my sewing machine, it's just to start sewing the parts that I've pinned. For the half cut, I'll put a notch at the middle of the front panel, and it is now time to start sewing. To start sewing, the first thing I'll do is to bring the trouser part of this jumpsuit, and I'm going to be pinning I've joined it. I said I was going to join it, so I'll be pinning the middle to the notched part on the half length, and then I'm just going to stitch it together, the upper part of the jumpsuit and the lower part of the jumpsuit at the front. I added two big pleats on, like, from the middle. You measure 2.5 to 3 inches forward on both sides, and then that's where your pleat will be. Your pleat has to be facing each other so that it will not be looking funny. The next after this is to join the back panels two together, the upper part and the lower part. Make sure that the two zip sides are aligning. Don't mistakenly face the shaping side to the zip side, and then you will still put your big pleat one on each side of the back panel, which was what I did here. The next after this, and while I was joining the crouch area for the back panel, I left the zipper allowance. I left like 5 inches downward before I started joining. So the next thing after this is to face the front and back together, making sure the right side is facing right side. Then you are going to join the shoulder line. Don't forget to slant your hand from the neck side to the armhole side while you are joining your shoulder line. Then I'll be using bias to pipe the whole neckline together at this point because I'm not using lining for this jumpsuit. After piping the neckline, the next thing to do is to start shaping. To shape now, you put your both panels together like this. The zip allowance can either be lying down on each other or facing each other, just like I am trying to show you in this video. Then this jumpsuit has an inseam pocket. So from the waistline, I'll be measuring 1.5 inch downward because I'm making this jumpsuit for a child that is 10 years old. If you are sewing for an adult, please measure 2 to 2.5 inches downward. Then the width of the pocket itself will be 6 inches. So you're going to skip 6 inches from the 1.5 inch that you have measured, and you divide the bust by 4, mark that. The waistline divided by 4, you mark that. Then the hip divided by 4, you mark that. As you are shaping, you skip, don't forget to skip the 6 inches that I mentioned for the width of the pocket. The next is to flip it to the other side. You start dividing your measurement by 2 now, no longer by 4. Then you are still going to skip that 6 inches on this side as well for the pocket to stay, and then you're just going to shape your jumpsuit. It is that simple. Please, if you are still with me at this point and you've not subscribed, consider subscribing to my channel. Next is to start shaping the jumpsuit from down. After you must have folded it down on your jumpsuit. Remember that we added 3 inches allowance to the length, but you're going to be folding with 2 inches allowance. If you want to fold with 3 inches, add 4. If you want to fold with 4 inches, add 5 inches allowance. So you're just going to shape from one leg upward to the thigh area, and then to the crouch, to the other thigh, then down to the other leg. I'm not measuring in this case because I want this jumpsuit as free as possible, like I said. Then I proceeded to attaching my inseam pockets. I'm not going to be talking too much on how I did that because I have a detailed video on how to do that already on my channel. The link will be up and also down in the description box. Next after this was to cut the cup sleeve. I made the length of the cup sleeve 6 inches while cutting. Then I folded it with 1 inch and it came back to 5 inches while I was done. So from the shoulder line, you're going to mark 5 inches to the front and to the back on your armhole so that you can just fix your cup hand inside the 5 inches that you have marked from the front and then to the back. I hope what I'm saying is clear. Then I proceeded to fixing my zip. When I was done fixing zip, the rest of the, like whatever is remaining inside the armhole, the cup hand cannot go around the armhole. So whatever is remaining, you are going to neatly double fold it, and basically that is it for the cutting and sewing of this jumpsuit. I hope this video is helpful to someone. If it has been, don't forget to subscribe. If you have any question, kindly ask me down in the comment section, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.